Welcome to the Big Roofs Podcast, the podcast where we talk about roofing and other stuff as well. We're your hosts, John and AJ. John, what is the biggest roof leak that you've ever seen?
Well, it's fortunately not been a roof leak that I created, but I've definitely seen uh, everything: insulation, drywall, roof decking, even framing of the house was totally compromised. An
Framing.
entire the entire wall, actually. It was actually in Savannah, and it was in transition for an older house, and from the outside it didn't look that bad, but then we did some more investigating and it was pretty bad. And yeah, it was a really big deal. Fix your
The
roof.
framing,
Otherwise,
how does
the
that
wall
happen?
the wall was about to fall out of the house. And then
Oh, wow.
that back kitchen area would have just fallen in. Yeah.
Is it a weight
And truth,
bearing wall?
yeah, the load bearing walls were just like totally rotten. But it's because from the outside, it's a very old house, but it was just, you gotta take care of your roof. And they had, unfortunately, they had a bunch of Chuck and trucks come out and try to fix these roof leaks for years and years and years. And it's just like, you gotta do it. Like, they wouldn't tear off the roof. First of all, they had 2 or 3 layers of shingles. That's number one problem. Then they just didn't ever hire like a real professional who knew what they're doing. And it's really unfortunate because now, you know, it's a very small roof, probably about a $12,000 roof. Now it's a easily $100,000 job, easily.
Wow.
So that's a good example, folks.
But you
Of
did replace it?
We did not.
Oh,
They
you haven't.
they It was a old family home in Savannah, and they have done nothing. I think they're just going to let the house just fall over. Truthfully, the mother is going to go into a nursing home, and they're just going to let that roof cave in. Unfortunately,
Wow.
that's the
That's
that was
that's
last year.
crazy. Yeah, so that's what happens when you just keep pushing the roof off and off and off.
Also, be safe, people, because I was on that roof and you
Oh, the
couldn't
roof that
tell. Well, I mean, I was. It didn't fall in at the moment, but it was impossible to tell from just outside looking
outside.
in.
Yeah.
Even inside, you couldn't tell. And I was standing on that roof. I was like, I have to be off
How
this roof.
were you able to tell that the wall was rotted then? Cut open the
Well,
drywall?
it just took some more time there. We just took some more time. We figured it out. Then they got some more information from the homeowner, and it was, there you go. We figured out,
Yeah.
oh, this is all messed up. And then came around to the certain section. She's like, yeah, we had this tarp and that tarp, and it's like, oh no, this is bad.
Mm, man. Was it one of those situations where it's like, okay, obviously this family is struggling a little bit, or was it like a family that should have been able to pay for it and they just kept putting it off?
It was a great example of somebody who's in the middle class who could have just taken care of this with somebody who is capable of doing this with a really good reputation, like hiring a really there are a few different companies that before we moved here that could have taken care of this the right way, and they just kept choosing to not see the value in those companies. And they ended up with a 10x problem, 10x cost problem. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's the
Would you say
situation.
that's on the homeowner, or would you say it's on the roofing companies for not being able to communicate the value properly?
It's a little bit of both. um I mean, at the end of the day, we can't convince people, we can't show people the value of like that your house is. I mean, I tell people this all the time. Hey, you have a leak. I see that there's some surface mold here. Your house is not gonna fall in. And like every time I say that, there's like a sigh of relief from the homeowner. Well, if it was me years ago, I'd be like, hey, your house is gonna fall in. I would have told them that. And then that's kind of on the roofer's side for not saying that and not emphasizing that enough. And then it's kind of on them. I mean, now we talked about this last week and other for weeks is financing. Financing is a deal now that you're just going to have to offer. If you don't, and that's kind of on the roofer, is that if they don't offer financing, then they can't fix most people's problems now.
Yeah. Yeah, this is interesting. So like I'm just trying to think, like would you consider that house a good lead or a bad? Like in general, well, I mean, obviously you got that lead because you ended up going to that home. But,
Mm-hmm.
looking back on that now, like you went, and then of course now the situation is it's kind of too late. Like you said, they're just going to let it cave in. But if you had gotten that lead, 2 years ago, would you have gone to the house and said, like, what would have been your walking away from that appointment? Would you say, oh, that was a terrible lead? That was a good lead. I just couldn't convince them of the value. What would have been your analysis of that as a lead from a marketing perspective?
So we get a lot of leads just like this, where a homeowner has either had a couple estimates, got a sketchy feeling from a chuck in a truck, or they've done these like band-aid repairs, either short term, medium term, long term, and then we get to solve the problem later. That happens a lot. It's been happening for years, just how we positioned ourselves in the market. Now that's on us for not positioning ourselves a way that we're accessible to everyone. We've positioned ourselves as like, we market really well. We have wrap trucks, that kind of thing. And so people they have a perception that we're going to be more expensive because we are, but we fix the job the right way and we actually warranty it. So it's hard because we get into that situation a lot, and I would still consider it a good lead. But I wish we were the first one. I wish we cracked the code on getting customers to call us first, and then
Yeah,
we'd be able to, instead of third or fifth.
yeah, that's interesting. What I'm trying to think from a marketing perspective. So you're putting money into marketing, whether it be your SEO, Google Ads. I mean, even the money like putting your wraps on your trucks, that's expensive, and that does contribute to cost per lead. So all these leads are one way or another you're having to pay for them. And so when you're generating leads, from my perspective, as a primarily someone with a marketing background, my perspective has always been, let's try to cast a relatively wide net and get as many leads as possible. And then that gives you as many opportunities as possible to turn those into sales. And you're going to have to pre-qualify them. You're going to have to work with those leads, and you're going to have to figure out which ones are good, which ones are bad. But it's better to get, 20 overall leads than a smaller number of leads that are, what I have always struggled with whenever working with clients on marketing in the marketing realm has been that, hey, I only want the good leads. Don't get me any bad leads. And it's like, that's not really how marketing works. We can put information out that tries to communicate who you do and do not want to work with. And then we can put things like different lines in your form, pre-qualification questions. But at the end of the day, you're going to get good leads and you're going to get bad leads. That's just how marketing and sales works. And then B, it is better for you to get 20 leads and have half of them be good and half of them are bad than us try to over pre-qualify on the marketing end and then only get you 5 good leads. If we get you the 20, this is just my perspective as a marketer. If we get you the full 20, you might be able to get 10 good leads out of there. If we go super, super aggressive on the pre-qualification and like your lead forms on your website, then we may only be able to get you 5, right? You're leaving those other 5 good leads on the table by not being willing to pre-qualify through the full 20. What's your perspective on that as a roofer?
I have not figured out the right mixture of that yet. We definitely tend to be on the opposite side of like smaller net. So here's a good example. We signed up with a very popular platform that does not advertise that they are a lead gen service, but that's one of the reasons why we signed up with them. I'll just say it's roofing.com. Roofing.com, they're great people. I like everybody there. They're great. Limitless is GPO is connected to them. Like there's great people. Well, and they were very straightforward and honest with us, but we tracked it. Kathleen and I talked about this actually last week. In about a 5-week period, I believe, we had 19 leads from them. 18 of them were horrible, like either like not real numbers, straight to voicemail, a lot of time, effort, and energy that Kathleen had to put forth. And we were doing like instant, like within 60-second responses to these leads. So we had really good speed to lead and they weren't real. And one of them was real and it was a repair and they didn't do the repair. That is a rough situation. That's a lot of, I mean, even if there, that's a demoralizing thing for Kathleen or anyone at the organization to have to do. Like, here's 3 more leads, gonna do these. It just, then the energy goes down for anyone who's trying to sell those or set those appointments. Like, it's a horrible situation to be in. And we've done over the past 8 years, we've had other lead services like that where it is a wide net. And these people are coming from roofing.com. So like they should be real leads, but now with all of the bots that are out there, all of the spam that's out there, I think that now it's really, really difficult to have like wide net lead flow like that. You're going to have more pre-qualification. And they even say that they talk to the individual who signs up for the lead before we get them. So I don't know if that's true or not. It doesn't really matter. 18 out of 19 is not good. That's a waste of time. That's a really big demoralizing. That's a really big cultural thing that people are going to quit from your organization if you have to run those leads all the time like that.
If that one lead had turned into a roof, would that have made it all worth it?
No, absolutely not.
You would rather not have that lead than have to go through the 18. How many of those, we'll call it even number. We were talking about 20. We'll just say it's 20 leads. How many of those 20 leads have to turn into work for it to be worth it to pre-qualify the full 20?
We talk about this a lot in the River Show podcast about pre-qualified lead versus a lead. Like, I get it from a marketing perspective. It is very difficult the way things are set up right now. We have to be more creative. I'm really excited to be working with Brad Akers. We're going to start training either the end of this week or next week. And I'm excited to see what he has to say and show us and train us on how to generate better pre-qualified leads, because the old way of doing things simply does not work long term. It can work. You can generate some business. And we've done things like, okay, here's a different example. We sent out, I believe it was 3,000 mailers to specific, this is early on, like 3 or 4 years in the business. I sent out 3,000 mailers 3 times. And so it was around $10,000, maybe just over $10,000 with everything. And we sold one job that made $13,000 out of 3,000. Is that a good deal? That's a bad deal. So like it's that kind of marketing can work. It just didn't work in Athens. Maybe it'll work in Savannah, but it didn't work in Athens at all. And so sending out 3,000 mailers 3 times, maybe not enough. Maybe we should have done it 6 times and maybe we would have generated more. But then our, acquisition costs would be way high to get that one. And in all practical purposes, that's a fail. If you spend 10,000 to get 13,000, that's not a win.
I wonder, and this is something that I'm going to be working on building into ProLine in the coming months, is good lead tracking and lead source tracking. I wonder, are you also including referral business that might have come from those jobs that you completed? Maybe you didn't make money on the initial job, but then if you get a referral and then they close, that's technically still a result of that.
Yeah. Marketing. Secondary, it's an indirect lead source. It is almost impossible to track that. It really, really is. There's like a few people that we have that give us consistent referrals, but it, like, just inputting the data into CRM. If we're always asking, how'd you hear about us? We're trying to get the lead source from the very beginning. They typically say Google. Okay, fine. Well, at the end of the job, actually my neighbor referred me. So, but it's in the CRM as Google, and it's really a referral from Brian. That's what happens over and over and over again. So then it's on the sales rep to make, I'm going to go back to the lead source. Let me input that data and make sure we give Brian the credit, or whatever the reason is. It's lead source has been something that's very difficult unless you use a QR code or you have landing pages on your website, it's almost impossible to be really accurate about that. I haven't seen anyone to be really accurate because you can be good, but it's not 100% accurate whenever, and then you don't know how to spend your marketing dollars or where to spend marketing dollars because of the lead source. We hear a lot of yard signs and a lot of truck wraps and a lot of door hangers and things like that and postcards. But how do we know when we haven't figured that out yet in my business?
Yeah, well,
If
I mean, I think part of it is we haven't quite figured it out in ProLine yet. I'm thinking through how I might implement that because it's going to be in the next couple months. So I'm going to be building out our lead source tracking on the contact side. We already have tagging on the project side, but on the contact/customer side, would it make sense to have? What I'm kind of thinking is that you should have lead source, but then you should also have a referred by field where you can input another contact that referred that contact or that customer. And then in the analytics, both should be tracked because I think if a job comes in, so here's kind of the scenario I'm thinking. If they came through Roof Quote Pro, but they're saying, hey, my neighbor referred me. But what happened is the neighbor referred them, then they went to your website, filled out Roof Quote Pro. You want to know that the lead source was Roof Quote Pro, but you also want to know that that's a secondary sale as a result of whatever lead source was with who they referred them. So I feel like that's something that we should be tracking in our analytics for ProLine for ProLine users. We should be tracking both. You should be able to see for each lead source what was your primary revenue as a result of these lead sources, and then also your secondary revenue, from referrals. What do you think? That's kind of how I'm envisioning it. Is like having
I would love that.
They're separate fields.
I think the hard part is consistency with your team. Like it is the last thing on their mind. They're trying to move the needle forward. Finding the
putting that
source,
inputting that data.
Yeah, inputting the data like from a salesperson who's out there in the field. That's like a really hard thing to get them to do. Even if you're an office person or an admin or anyone, like it is really, really hard to get people to, hey, wait, hold on. I know we're doing a thing. We're moving forward with this roofing process, like whatever it is. We're selling, we're producing, we're getting referrals, we're invoicing, whatever those things are. I know we're doing these things, but hey, can you just remind me? I know you already said Google, but can you remind me of like how we heard about you? Like we asked 2 or 3 times in either a form or in person to get people to actually, it's the homeowners. It's the homeowners are the ones that are like, I don't even know. I don't remember how. Maybe I saw, like, they don't know. That's why it's so important from a marketing perspective to have like multiple different ways that people see your brand, because they just don't know. They do. I mean, over and over again, they're like, I don't know. I just Googled it. Like that's what and they probably saw a truck and a yard sign and a door hanger and their neighbor got the roof done, but they don't care at that point. They just want the roof replaced. That's the hard part. It's because you actually you're getting the homeowner to think about something they don't want to think about already. Can you remember this? This is another question they have to answer. They have a million questions they're answering all day. And that is a really, really hard thing to finesse that. That's the word, finessing it. Like getting it in there and trying to really figure out, like, you can set the whole, hey, Brian referred you. Do you have anyone else? And you can try to get referrals that way. You can kind of see, like, here's the way. It's the same way to get a Google review. Hey, you mentioned that you saw our 5-star reviews. It would mean a lot to us if you wrote a 5-star review so the next homeowner could see the same thing. It's like, what's in it for them? It's really, really hard to get homeowners in that mindset. And
they're just thinking about it from their perspective. I think that's part of the reason it's so important to have it at the software marketing level, where it's tracking as much of it as possible, where at least you're getting where it came from. And that's what I'm tackling. One of the things I'm tackling in the next couple of months is making sure that ProLine's doing that, where it's to the most extent possible able to identify where a lead came from, and
Yeah, I
not
mean,
just at the project level, but specifically at the contact level. I think that's important because it's like you're saying, it's hard for it to happen after the fact.
it's so much easier when there's electronic, um, what's it called? Electronic paper trail. Like if we in ProLine, if we can track like Roof Quote Pro stuff and we know it every time, and we know, okay, it's a website form every time, that's going to be super accurate. If it's a postcard from Dope Marketing that has a QR code and we know it's a postcard, that's awesome. I just think when you put people and human error involved, it's really, really hard. The more we can take the people out of both from the roofer team, company team, and the prospects side, if you can take that human error out, then you're just going to have more accurate data.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're working towards that. I mean, right now we kind of have that right now with the project tags. So that's how we've been sort of handling lead source right now, is just tagging projects based on where they came from. And I think that's still a valuable thing as well, because it's good to know, oh, this project came directly through Referral Pro. But I think the thing that we need to add is at the contact level. So wherever you need to know the original source of a customer, so that even if they do multiple projects with you or they refer other people and that gets labeled, even though that is hard, like you're saying, but if it does, then we're able to actually track all that back, because that is, I think, where some stuff gets miscommunicated and where it's easy to write off lead sources where it's like, oh, this lead source didn't generate enough revenue for it to be worth it. But if it was properly tracked, you'd be able to see, oh, actually, so that person here, they did this like multiple jobs with us, and then they referred two people, and so overall that lead source, that marketing campaign was actually profitable for us. And so I
Yep.
think that's something that it's one of the areas that we need to fill out to make sure it is as good as possible through ProLine.
One thing that would excite me as a business owner is if we've never really had to do this before, but we've sold 2 Yelp roofs, and really profitable Yelp roofs. Like, we've never had Yelp ever. Georgia doesn't really use Yelp for home services. But if we had a very clear dashboard that said, okay, let's think about it. For me, we've sold Yelp roofs. We sell a lot of roofs from like Google Guaranteed or Google Local Service Ads, LSA. We sell a lot of that. But if I knew it was coming from the LSA ad, that would be awesome. Like, I don't really know it now. Just because we switched over, I don't really know. If we knew all those electronic lead sources, that would be massive, because then I know, okay, if Yelp's selling, I should probably I haven't put $1 towards Yelp, but we've sold 2 roofs. That's a pretty good ROI. But I need to see it on a monthly basis so that I know, like, okay, where to put marketing dollars. If it's Thumbtack or if it's Angie or whatever else people use in different markets. If ProLine can provide a very clear lead source analytic that we can all use and see really well, like, this is the number of leads, and this is the number of generated revenue, and this is profit, like, that's huge. That would be a huge thing. It'd be
Yeah.
very clear. Or, like, people like that build websites, if it's Hook Agency and they're building a website and lead forms there and they're using the website and you can track that, it's a good idea to use Hook for PPC or whatever that they're offering you. If is the SEO working? Like, all these things are really, really helpful for people to know where to put the money towards for their marketing budget.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Based on what you have, I know kind of part of what we're talking about here is we want to get this better for your company through ProLine. But from what you've seen so far with the data that you do have available for all these lead sources, which lead sources have been the best for you?
So it's pretty clear that it's LSA. Google LSA has been really, like, they're pretty high quality leads when they come from Google Local Service Ads. Those, even though there were 2 roofs, Yelp was very intriguing. We're having to revamp, like, this winter time to try to execute more intentional activities in these other lead sources that we're getting, like small amounts, and try to multiply those lead sources more. If it's with dollars or just being more proactive with posting on those platforms. but definitely LSA for us right now. I mean, that's what it definitely has dropped off a lot, but also organic SEO. We're starting that again. That's always been really good for us. We've focused on that. You've done that for us for years, and we had Hook do it, and now we're doing the SEO roofing school with Demo. He's going to do blog posts for us, and then we're going to do some in-house stuff as well. It's just we focus on online presence. We focus on Google reviews, and we want to provide a trusted source for roofing.
Makes sense. I think, it always seems to come back to SEO. But Google LSA is interesting. I really would like to figure out how to integrate ProLine with Google LSA for the speed to lead. I think that's a big thing that would be really good to have. It's just really tough. They make it intentionally tough to try to integrate software into it because they're trying to avoid
Thousands of integrations.
well, not just that. I think they're intentionally trying to force people to manually respond to those leads. I think that's part of their strategy. So it might be difficult for us to build that in. But Yelp, Thumbtack, like these are things that I need to work on to make sure that they're integrated for the speed to lead. I think some of it is possible. Thumbtack might be possible with Zapier now. I think I saw that. I think they had their on Zapier, but I'm not 100% on that. But that's kind of what some of the problems is. Like the leads are good on these specifically because of how the platform set it up so that you can't automate communication on them.
Yeah.
Like it makes it hard for both from the customer side and the contractor side for you to do any kind of automations or have any essentially bot activity. Like they're intentionally like making that not possible. And so that makes it difficult for us to integrate. But not impossible. Like Google LSA does already have some CRM integration. So I think we might be added to that list at some point. So, well, let's wrap this up. John, what are you looking forward to this coming week?
I'm getting back at it. I mean, holidays are fine. I like to work though. Mondays are fun for me. Like they're busy always on Monday, but there's like 10 things I want to do today. And I'm going to try to tackle as many things I can each day. I'm excited to work. I'm excited to work out again. The gym was closed for a few days. So yeah, those two things, working and working out.
Nice. Awesome. On my end, we're launching two-way calendar sync this week. We're doing, I'm not 100% sure. I think we may be launching invoicing this week, but it'll probably be a soft launch. We'll do a full launch probably next week, but possibly soft launching invoicing and payments, which is super exciting. But I am going to be out of town. I'm going to be out of town for a couple of days this week. I'm going to do some surfing. So, I've been nose to the grindstone. So I'm going to take a couple of days off. I'm still going to probably work, but maybe I'll just work in the morning or something. That's surfing in the afternoon. So
nice.
All right. Well, that's good. And, thanks for being here, John. Thanks for everyone listening. And, we'll see you guys next week.
Bye, everybody.